And how do I go to the next slide? Yeah? Oh, well, hello everybody. Thanks for coming along. I'm going to talk about Nicaragua today. Hopefully give you an idea of what Nicaragua's like, what it'd be like to visit if you wanted to go there, and just a few of the things that you would see if you went. And hopefully that will inspire some of you to visit Nicaragua, which I think is an incredible country, and I've been visiting for many years. Right, let's get started. This is the flag of Nicaragua, blue on white, and the escudo, which is the coat of arms, shows the 5 original Central American republics with a Phrygian cap and a rainbow of harmony and peace, which is always nice. So Nicaragua is the land of lakes and volcanoes. It's called that because when you go there you find lots of lakes and volcanoes. Right, this is Concepcion volcano. It's a beautiful cone of volcano on the twin volcano island of Ometepe, and we'll see that a bit later, some more of that. And this body of water is one of the largest lakes in Central America, a freshwater lake, which is so vast and huge that when you're on it, you feel like you're on the sea. Very choppy, for example, when you travel on it. And it's also, unbelievably, home to bull sharks. I think it's one of the only places in the world where sharks live in freshwater environment. There's not so many now because they farmed them for the fins in the 70s. But yeah, you'll find them now coming back, and if you're lucky or unlucky, you might see one. Okay, so who am I? So my name is Russell Maddox. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram if you want to at LATAM Travelist. I'm a Latin American specialist. I've been traveling in Latin America for about 25 years, and I've written books about Venezuela, Ecuador, Cuba, Mexico, now Nicaragua. So obviously I've seen a lot of places in Latin America, and my recommendations for Nicaragua come from an experience of having traveled in other places as well. So where is Nicaragua? Well, here it is in Central America. So midway between South America and North America, you have Central America, and right in the middle, you have Nicaragua. It's the largest country in Central America. And this is it. So it's bordered by Honduras in the north, Costa Rica in the south. It has a Caribbean side, and it has a Pacific side. Pacific side is where you find all the surfing, and it's some of the best surfing in the world, and it's year-round surfing. Just behind the surfing beaches, you have the line of volcanoes. There's about, depending on who you ask, there's anything from 19 to 26 volcanoes, and some of them are very big and some of them are very small. And about 9 of them are active, so recently active. So we're talking last year, there was some major eruptions that were quite spectacular, but didn't affect anybody. So, you know, Nicaragua's very geared up for dealing with this. They've lived a very long time with the threat of volcanic action. And this is the Pacific Rim of Fire, comes right through that Pacific side of Nicaragua. And as you can see, these are the Volcano Row coming down right near the big cities. There's Managua, the capital. That's that volcano that we saw at the beginning. Concepcion, which is on this island called Ometepe, which is right in the middle of Lake Nicaragua. And you can see how large Lake Nicaragua is. It's a huge body of water. And then up in the north, you've got the highlands, where you find coffee haciendas, where they have cacao, chocolate production up there, and Esteli over here. Some of the best cigars in the world are produced. So, you know, there's a lot of variety. You've got up here is the Bozawas Reserve, up near where it says Coco River, which is one of the largest biospheres, natural reserves in Central America. And down here in the south, you've got another huge reserve, which is the Indio Maiz Reserve. And then right along the Mosquito Coast, you have a very different culture. So this is the kind of wild coast of Nicaragua, where you can see that the names are in English. Corn Islands, Blue Fields. And this is because that was the British influence. The British influence in the 18th and just coming up into the 19th century. And so you find people speak Creole, which is a mixture of English and local indigenous Mosquito language. The main connection between that coast and the British was via Jamaica. So there is a connection, historical connection, between this Caribbean coast, the Atlantic coast of Nicaragua, and Jamaica and the British. And it's quite unusual. So you can go from a Spanish-speaking colonial city of Grenada, for example, and then fly over to the Corn Islands, and everyone's talking to you in English, and it's all rum and Caribbean, just like you might find in other Caribbean islands. So it's a very diverse environment in Nicaragua. Okay, now there's a lot of facts on here. I don't expect you to take them all in, but just a few, just to give you a general overview. So it's the largest country in Central America. It has the largest lake in Central America, which is Lake Nicaragua. The population is around 6 million, which is the same as some of the other countries that you're going to find in Central America, but it's got a larger expanse of territory, and so it feels like more rural, more rustic, and less urban. The capital city is Managua. It's the only country that's nearing 1 million, and the other cities have much smaller populations. The main cities are León, Masaya, Matagalpa, Chinandega. The dry season is December to May. Generally, it depends where you are. And the rainy season is from June to October. But on the Pacific lowlands, it's very hot. And so the rainy season won't affect you very much. It might be a little bit of rain in the morning, drizzle in the morning, or a bit of rain in the afternoon. I was caught in a rainstorm. When they do come, they can be quite big. They can be quite dramatic. And I ended up in somebody's house for 4 hours until the rain stopped because there was nowhere else to go. And then the electricity went off. And then she gave me a hammock because my feet didn't get wet, and made me some coffee. It was very nice. So it's a very hospitable country. It's the poorest country in the Americas after Haiti, but it's not a poverty that you sense as you walk around. You don't see street kids without shoes. What you see are people who are getting by on small amounts, but because a lot of the people live in a rural environment, they're growing a lot of their own food still. So they might not have cash money, but they do have, crops that they can supplement their income with. So it's mainly agriculture. You've got coffee, beef, gold, sugar and peanuts. Remittances, that's Nicaraguans living abroad. And tourism is becoming more and more important. Okay, and it's got a great literacy rate. Language, Spanish, Creole, and that's the British influence, Mosquito, which is along that Mosquito coast, Suma and Garifuna. And it's one of the few countries in Central America that has almost a split, 50-50, between Catholic religion and this growing evangelical trend. Okay? And it's a mestizo country. Right, okay. Now, a lot of people know Nicaragua because of the Sandinista revolution. So I think we should talk about that. That's when I first heard about Nicaragua, back in the 1980s. Why is the Sandinista revolution very important? Well, you've got a Sandinista government at the moment. If you think about England, what is one of the most defining moments in British history? We might say the Second World War. We constantly refer to it as something that defined us as a nation. In a way, Nicaragua was defined as a nation by the Sandinista revolution. Groups like The Clash that's when I first heard about Nicaragua, was listening to The Clash. And so the Sandinista revolution toppled a dictator, 40-year dictatorship by the Somoza family, and they brought democracy back to the country. And Sandinismo is still something that you will find as a cultural element of Nicaragua as you travel around. Just one of the elements. But actually, although Nicaragua is defined by this Sandinista revolution in the past, it's not the defining image of Nicaragua that you find when you get there. So what you find is you find these amazingly beautiful architectural gems like Granada, which is one of the oldest cities in the Americas. It's a very family-orientated country, and so it's a great place to take children. And this is out in the Corn Islands. This is a bit of scuba diving, a bit of snorkeling in the Corn Islands. It's a surfing paradise at the moment. A lot of people are going down there. So you get a young American surfing crowd that are going there to discover the beaches, because you can surf all year round. And you can even surf down a volcano, an active volcano if you want to, after walking up to the top. So it takes about 40 minutes to get up to the top. And you actually walk through the caldera, which is the, the cauldron of the volcano. And it's so hot that if you stand in some places too long, the soles of your trainers will melt. So it's best to keep walking. Get to the top, and then it takes, I don't know, what, 35 seconds to get down? I was going about 60 kilometers an hour, and all I knew was it was just a very exhilarating. Well, when you get off and all your legs are rubbery. One of those experiences. And people of all ages have been doing this kind of experience, and it's become something which is unique to Nicaragua. And also it's going up market. It didn't used to be a luxury destination. It was difficult to find outside of the main tourist city of Granada. There wasn't that many places where you could go and have a luxurious experience in Nicaragua, but that's changing. This place is called Mucul Resort, and it was built on a little stretch of a remote coast down towards Costa Rica. And it was built by the rum billionaire Carlos Pelas, who's one of the richest men in Nicaragua. And he started out building this as something for his own family. He built a landing strip, and then he's developed it. He now has a golf course, and they played the Flor de Caña Nicaragua Open. So that's a professional golf course, so you can go along. They're playing professional tournaments there, and it's something that guests to the Mucul Resort can go and take advantage of. This is another luxury development. This is on Jicaro Island, which is just off Lake Granada, and you can see very modern, very chic, a lot of yoga and wellness spa treatments. And this is on Little Corn Island, and this is this amazing piece of beach on this tiny island that there's no cars, you just walk around, and that's called the Yemaya Resort. That's very beautiful. It's not the only place to stay on Little Corn Island. It's the place to stay if you've got lots of money, but there are smaller boutique options, so you don't have to have a lot of money to go and stay there. But it's just showing how it's developing. And it's hot at the moment. Nicaragua's very hot at the moment. It's one of the top 10 destinations of 2017, according to Rough Guides. It's one of the top 10 places to retire. A lot of Americans are taking their money and retiring there because it's got good health care, it's got a great climate, it's year-round sun, and it's one of the top places to go on honeymoon, according to Condé Nast magazine, and that was just a month ago. So it's really coming out in the news. A lot of people want to go to Nicaragua. And why should you want to go to try and travel to Nicaragua? Well, it's the safest country in Central America. Now, that's a really important concern. If you're going to go and travel somewhere as far away as Central America, it's really important that you know that you're going to be safe there. I know that, did anyone see Levison Wood was walking the Americas? Well, Levison Wood made it sound like it was a massive adventure, and he was trekking through these sort of woods all the time. But actually, all the places that he went to, well, luckily when he got to Nicaragua, he actually had some fun for a change. But all the places that he visited in Nicaragua, you can just drive to. You don't have to trek through woods with a machete. I know he wants to make a lovely program and make everybody think, oh, what a great explorer. But actually, these are very easy places to visit. And so if you liked the program and you saw the place that Levison Wood went to, you don't need a machete to get there, all right? That's the thing we can all walk away with. You can go there, you can get on a tour bus with other tourists, they'll drive you up there, get off, eat your sandwiches, have a nice look, get back on the bus, go and have a swim. Okay, it's diverse and undiscovered. Well, Levison Wood's been there now, so we can't say that. But yeah, it's becoming discovered. And it has this unique history, partly the Sandinista history, but also a much longer colonial history. The culture is very diverse. There's lots of folk festivals. It's very colourful. The food is interesting. And the result of this is that tourism is increasing and has increased by 20% in the last 4 years. Okay, so it's kind of booming at the moment. A lot of people are discovering it, and there's lots of things to visit. So one guy explained to me that the thing about Nicaragua, that's another view of Concepcion volcano from the lake as dusk falls. And he says that the reason why Nicaragua has such a huge wow factor when people go there is because your expectations are so low. You don't expect to find much. Nicaragua, what do we know about Nicaragua? Not that much. So when people go there, they are really surprised about how amazing the destination is. And we'll find some of those things out. People have low... So he says that people, they may come for the colonial cities, they discover the beaches. They want to come, or even bird watching, which is something that you can do there that few people know about. People go to Costa Rica bird watching, people go to Panama bird watching, but people don't go to Nicaragua bird watching, and the birds have to travel through that corridor between North and South America, so you get all the migratory birds and you get all the endemics. I think there's 700 species of bird discovered at the moment, 710 in Nicaragua. They say 850 in Panama, but just because they haven't spent enough time in Nicaragua, you know, ticking them off. We'll soon get to 850. Okay, and some of the things that are interesting about, I don't know why I put this one in. Some of the things that are interesting about Nicaragua is the surf is really good. It's not just good for professionals, it's good to learn. This group called Chica Brava, there was an American lawyer, I think she was from Houston or Atlanta, and she came down to Nicaragua because she wanted to go surfing, and she found the surf to be excellent for learning, and she learned how to surf there. And then she discovered that she wanted to teach other people to surf, and she wanted to put together, because she felt like it was a real macho testosterone environment, she wanted to create a surfing school that would be appropriate for women who wanted to just learn with other women, you know, like sisters surfing. And so she created this Chica Brava surf school in San Juan del Sur, and it's been really successful. A lot of Hollywood, you know, A-listers have been going down there to check it out. She's done really well, and after learning to surf, she won 6 surfing championships. So, you know, she really got the hang of it. That's her there, and that's a couple of her students. And that's called Chica Brava. And it's a real beginner's place. So children, you know, you've got everything from very low waves where they'll take you out and just push you on a bodyboard to get you started. Then you can go on to surfboards, up to professional level, you know, huge tubes. You know, it's got its own language. I won't dwell on this, but I'm always interested when I travel to Spanish-speaking countries about all the language that I'm going to learn. And so, you know, these are words that are indigenous words from either Nahuatl, because you had that Aztec influence coming down into Nicaragua, or they're just local indigenous words. So words like chompipe for turkey is not a word you find in most places. In Spanish, turkey is pavo, okay? And so, you know, it's got its own unique language. And just picking up a word like deacachimba is very easy to learn. Deacachimba, we can all say it. And deacachimba means cool, and you say that to people, you'll get a nice smile. So what you'll find is a lot of t-shirts. Dale pues chele means go for it, white boy. Chele comes from leche, which means milk, and they just turned it around and turned it into a little cool slang word for foreigner. And now it means any kind of foreigner. So chele. So you'll hear people, they don't call you a gringo, they call you a chele. And it's quite, yeah, it's very endearing. And if you're a girl, they call you a chela. Okay, and these are the 10 ways that you can say cool in Nicaraguan Spanish. So you've got de acachimba, bestial, caballada, tuani, salvaje, de humalera, de averga, fiera y brutal. Okay, so now you know. Okay, the music. Some of the music that we heard when we came in is the music of the marimba. Marimba is an instrument that basically came from Africa into Central America, and you find it all the way across Central America. It creates those beautiful sounds that we heard when we came in. And this is the typical kind of street buskers who go from table to table as you're eating, playing these tunes. Typical tunes. The money is plastic, so you can flash some plastic, just like we can with the £5. They had it first. Typical Nicaraguan breakfast, gallo pinto. So one of the things that people eat a lot in Nicaragua is rice and beans. And when you combine your rice and beans and you cook them up, you get gallo pinto, which means painted rooster. Okay, because it gets you up in the morning. And this is with scrambled eggs and fried cheese. If you've had like fried halloumi cheese, that's the kind of thing that you're going to get. Okay, typical breakfast in Nicaragua. Typical dinner in Nicaragua. Oh, gallo pinto. So there's a lot of rice and beans. But it's good food. And you can find good vegetarian restaurants now. The fruits are fantastic. This dish is called bajo, where everything is cooked together in a huge pot. So you would have beef and yuca, which is like a root vegetable, and you would have plantains, and they put leaves over the top of it, put it all to cook very, very slowly overnight, 8 hours maybe, and then when you undo it, all the steam comes off it and you get this amazing food. Beer is great. These are Toña is the most, como mi Toña, ninguna, that's the slogan. Nothing like my Toña. It's a beautiful lager, refreshing lager beer. Okay, capital city Managua. I'm going to speed up a bit. After the 1972 earthquake, the whole centre of Managua was pretty much devastated and knocked down, and there wasn't much left. So this is what they call Revolutionary Square now. And what they're trying to do is to get people back down into the centre of Managua, because it's not being considered a city to stay at. So in the evening now, they light it up in colours, and they've increased security so you can go around. But after the 1972 earthquake, the centre of the town was pretty much destroyed, and they're creating new places. This is inside the cathedral. Very few people, you're not allowed in there actually, I was lucky. And you can see the condition of it. And this is the silhouette of Sandino, which stands over the city. So that's a Sandinista symbol that you get. And this is Lake Managua. So wherever you are in Managua, you've got the lake in front of you. And this is some of the artwork that you can see when you go to the museum there in Managua. This is a Nicaraguan folk tale of the Mocuana. So they've still got this rich folk tradition. The Mocuana is an indigenous girl who meets a Spanish conquistador's son. She falls in love with him. He tells her that he loves her. They need to run away together. Can she please tell him where the chief has hidden the gold? She tells him where the chief has hidden the gold. He leaves her. She goes and lives in a cave, dies, and comes back as a vengeful spirit. And the idea is that the Mocuana, if you are drunk and a bit of a philanderer, wandering the streets at night alone, and you meet a beautiful woman, it could be her. It's a bit scary. Okay, and as you find in a country like Nicaragua, it's a very rural, make and mend kind of culture. So if you think about Cuba and the fact that Cuba went through so many years, people just making do with what they had, you find people, you know, this guy, granddad, wants to take the kids out, so he's put his little delivery basket on the front, they've put some chairs in, they're all sitting there, and they're going to have a little tour around the town. They're now stopping this because, you know, it's dangerous, but you used to see a lot of that now. But this is just a beautiful place. This is Granada, and, you know, the mustard yellow Cathedral of Granada is, with the red roof colonial buildings, is a really, it's called the Paris of Central America. It's not as big as Paris. You could walk around the streets and get to know a place like Granada in a day and feel comfortable. Cobblestone streets, plenty of restaurants, you've got the lake out the front. This is my favourite hotel in Granada. This is, there's a lot of new boutique options, as I was saying. This is called Posada La Merced, Hotel Real de la Merced. And this was the first swimming pool in Granada. It was built by a guy who was importing Italian marble into the city, and he built this, and he built the staircase. And they basically refurbished the whole building, the two-storey colonial building, around the staircase and the swimming pool. But the view from the window of the church, La Merced Church in front, is just spectacular, and it's very reasonably priced. That's the view from the window, and that's La Merced. So you've got these really ornate colonial churches, and you've got folklore. This is a girl called she's called La Gigantona, the big girl, and he's called El Enano Cabezón, the little big head short guy. And what you do is kids will go out and they'll play the drums. She dances round and round and round. He dances round and round and round, and then you give him some coins. And it's a folk tradition of Nicaragua that you find in Granada as you're eating. This is La Calzada. So it's cobblestones, lots of places to go out and eat. You can find vegetarian options. You can find all sorts of food. I thought it was quite funny that I was looking for Nicaraguan food. So I was asking everybody, you know, where's the best place to eat? I want to eat some Nicaraguan food. And they told me that the best place to eat was O'Shea's Irish Bar. Because they do an amazing cottage pie. And that was the Nicaraguans, you know. So I suppose all the different things is what attracts you. But this is the market. So you've got these colourful markets. These huge tubs are full of chili. It's all macerating there in vinegar, chilies and garlic. So they'll sell it to you in all sorts of tubs. Anything. You could bring your own bucket and get some if you want some. Vigorón is a very traditional dish. Vigorón, they call it vigorón because it makes you strong. It's a leaf, and on the leaf they will put some boiled yuca. On top of that they'll put some pork scratchings, and on top of that they'll put like a vinegary salad. And it's very tasty. And even in places like Granada, you know, you get this rural sense. It's horses and carts. It's people who are, you know, this is a delivery guy. He's delivering some things for somebody else. He's the removals man. And then you've got Las Isletas. So these are the islands. So you've gone from that colonial city and you've gone out to these tropical islands. There's 360 islands. Some of them as small as this stage. Some of them much bigger with houses on them. And a lot of rich people, like, I don't know if you can see, but all of these got little walls around them. When Mombacho volcano exploded millions of years ago, all of the top of the volcano was shot out into the lake, and that's where these islands have formed. So they're on the basis of volcanic rock, and they've just started to grow this vegetation. One of them is called Monkey Island, and there's some monkeys on there, and you can stop and they'll high-five you as long as you've got some bananas for them. Don't forget the bananas. They can get quite angry. Okay, and that's Mombacho volcano. So we're still in Granada. This is the city of Granada, and although it's got these amazing colonial buildings, there's a cupola of the cathedral. You've also got a volcano on one side, and you've got the islands on the other side. I walked up the volcano, and I found very quickly this Hoffman's three-toed sloth who was just hanging about. You know, beautiful. So there's a lot of wildlife as well, a lot of bird life. Howler monkeys. This was down in Ometepe, on the island of Ometepe, and they woke me up. I thought it was a honeymoon couple, but it was the howler monkeys. And there was loads of them, and maybe about 30 howler monkeys just crashing through the trees. Gradually the noise got louder until I realised it obviously wasn't a honeymoon couple. Okay, and iguanas. Part of the history of Nicaragua and the fact that it went through some hardships in the past and it still goes through hardship today. This boy's selling that iguana. That's going to go into soup. Okay, quesillos. This is a quesillo. A quesillo is basically a tortilla which has got some very simple farm cheese, like a kind of feta cheese perhaps, or a mozzarella type cheese, a watery mozzarella type cheese wrapped up in a tortilla. This is the chili jar, and you get it in a plastic bag. And this is a very simple, this is pinolillo. And pinolillo is a mixture of a rough cacao paste. So if you're going to make chocolate, the first thing you do is you roast your cocoa beans. Then you can grind them down and make a very simple chocolate drink. And that's pinolillo with quesillo. So there's plenty of food to eat. And we get to Leon. Leon is the second important colonial city of Nicaragua. And this is the cathedral. It's the largest cathedral in Central America. It's a university town. It has a twinning link with Oxford here in the UK. Which goes back to the 1980s, that's still relevant today. They've got a lot of students there. This is the tomb of Nicaragua's inside the cathedral. This is Nicaragua's most famous son. This is Rubén Darío, the poet and writer who created the Modernismo style of poetry and prose. This is a literal depiction of the people of Leon, the lion, crying because Rubén Darío has died. Well, he lived quite a life. He packed a lot in. Okay, and this is a painting by a Nicaraguan artist, and this, Leoncio Science, his name is, and this is from the Gurdian Art Museum, which is one of the best art museums in Central America. So there's plenty of culture in Nicaragua. So you've got the city of Leon, you've got the cathedral, you've got the connection with Rubén Darío, you've got a museum to Rubén Darío, and you've got one of the best art museums in Central America with a lot of contemporary art as well. Okay, but you've also got the Museum of the Revolution. So you can go along and speak to these guys. These are all Sandinistas. These Sandinistas fought on the streets of Leon at the end of the 78, 79, and it's really fascinating that they can point out on the walls some of these faded newspaper clippings where they appear as teenagers, you know, on the barricades of Leon. So you've got this really kind of, you know, rounded history. You get a lot of people in horses and carriages, and this is on the motorway. This guy was going to work. He was driving along with his bull or oxen. I think they're bulls. And that's this rural impact that you get all the time. This is the volcano boarding. I've told you about that. You walk to the top, you slide down very fast. This is nothing like snow. They said it's like snowboarding. Don't worry, it's like snowboarding. Well, snow is not gritty, and snow does not have to be picked out of your nose afterwards. But if you don't put something around your face, this does, and it's very sharp little bits of grit, and you can go really, really fast on it if you're not careful. And it's only just a bit of wood. Next, a great place to go, from Leon, a few miles away in Chinandega, Chichigalpa, is the Flor de Caña rum factory. This is one of the smoothest rums you'll ever drink. Very cheap. You can get let's say, a litre bottle of 7-year-old rum, premium rum, for $10, $12. It's a great place to visit. You get to try 25-year-old rums as part of the tour, and you get to see the whole process. So you've got that aspect of things. Another aspect of Nicaragua is visiting Ometepe Island. We've seen Concepcion. This is the ferry. So you get that ferry to go across the island. It takes about an hour. It's quite exciting. You've got this volcano coming closer to you as you go across there. It's quite romantic. This is the island. It's a twin volcano island. So you arrive over here at Moyogalpa, and then basically you've got a road which goes round it. Altagracia is the old traditional town, which has got its own church, and there's some pre-Columbian statues there. This is Playa Santo Domingo, which is the isthmus that joins the two volcanoes, which is sand, which just feels like a sandy beach, except you've got this freshwater lake in front of you. This is Playa Santo Domingo. So as you can see, you know, you sit out, but this is fresh water, and you know it's fresh water when the wild horses come down and start drinking it. you know. So it's really beautiful and undiscovered, and it's not a place where you've got a lot of other tourists around you. So you're really you're getting this experience pretty much to yourself a lot of the time, which makes it even better. And these are some of the pre-Columbian statues that were found. This is Zapatera culture. So these are statues which were uncovered on the island, and this is a petroglyph that was found. And you find these dotted about as you go around. Okay, and again, it's really rural. This kid is he's riding a bull, and these are the beans, you know, black beans. When you drag them out like this, and then you take them home and you pick all the beans off. And he's basically coming out of his field. And these guys were taking this pig. And we sort of wound the window down and said to them, well, where are you taking the pig? And they said, well, pop by the market this afternoon and you can taste it. So, you know, it's a bit sad, but... Okay, and this is the Caribbean paradise of the Corn Islands. This is Yemaya on Little Corn Island, and obviously, you know, the sea is completely clear. You walk across this island, there's no cars, so you take your shoes off and you walk where you go. They serve fantastic Coco Loco rum cocktails, and you can just kick off your feet and relax for a couple of days, just exploring the coast, you know, walking around, having a swim, snorkeling, scuba diving, all of those things are available. And elsewhere, this is up in the highlands, you've got, as I said about the bird watching, where you can also see monkeys, but this is a resplendent quetzal. This is the emblematic bird of Costa Rica. People go to Costa Rica to see the quetzal. Well, you can see the quetzal up in Nicaragua. You don't need to go to Costa Rica to see it, and you're going to get a much cheaper holiday going to Nicaragua than you are going to Costa Rica. This is the national bird of Nicaragua, the guarabarranco, the turquoise-browed motmot. And this one over here, I saw this at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was quite spectacular. It was a 3-wattled something or other. Okay, and that's where I stayed. So this is the Selva Negras. This is an eco-environment where you're in the forest, and when you wake up, you can't avoid the forest because it's all around you, and they've got these big windows. And it gets misty in the evening, and it gets very cool, which is a great way to get out of the heat from the plains, because it can get really hot down on the coast. So somewhere like this, you come up here and suddenly you get in the evening and the whole place is bathed in mist and you feel the chill. It's quite nice. You wake up at 5 o'clock, you can hear the birds, you can go bird watching. They also have a working coffee plantation. They make their own chocolate, coffee, cheese. You can see how the farm works. All the farm workers live on the plantation. It's quite an amazing immersion in all of how the farm works in Nicaragua as well. Okay, we've mentioned the rum. As I said, 7-year-old Flor de Caña Gran Reserva won some of the most awards for rum in the world. It's one of the most awarded rums in the world, and for $12 you've got a litre of that in your case to take home. Take 2, take 3. Okay, go to Estelí and you can see where they make the best cigars in the world. Most people think of Cuba as the producer of cigars, but a lot of the Cubans after the Cuban Revolution went to Nicaragua where they found volcanic soil that was really fertile. They took the Cuban seeds that they'd been using in Cuba, they started to grow them in Estelí, and now, because of the embargo, created problems for Cubans, Americans buying Cuban cigars. A lot of Americans come down here and buy their cigars in Estelí. And so if you smoke cigars, this is a great place to go and buy them. You can see how they're made. You can go to the hacienda. You can see the whole process. As I said, it's a deeply religious place. Whether people are evangelical or Catholic, there are religious festivals all the time. It seems like every little village that you go to is celebrating something. You know, everybody's out in the town. They have these bands called chicheros, which is like a couple of boys playing some brass, someone playing the drums. Nobody seems to be playing at the same time as anybody else, but it doesn't seem to matter. They make a noise, they set off some fireworks, and they have a procession around town. These were private altars that people set up themselves around Easter time. You've got lots of folk festivals. This is the Huehuense. This is in Diriamba, where they dance with these masks, and it's like a way of getting back at the conquistadors. You know, the conquistadors, the Spanish came in and they took control of everything. But on festival days, people could put on masks, pretend to be the Spanish conquistadors, and have a go back. You know, show them up, turn the tables. And so this is the Huehuense dance, and that's very colourful. And then over in the Caribbean side, this is the maypole dance in the Corn Islands, in Bluefields, but this is nothing like a maypole dance here. No, it's not like, you know, just going round gently with a few bells on your ankles. This is like proper dancing, whining and Caribbean style. And it's, yeah, it goes on for a couple of days. Okay, and of course you've got some unusual festivals as well. This is the San Lazaro festival in Masaya, where people dress up their dogs and have them blessed by the priest, and the best dog wins a prize. So there's always something surprising in Nicaragua, always something that you're going to find that you didn't expect. And this is up in Estelí. Now, Levison Wood went to these carvings, and he said, oh, you know, a lovelorn man started to carve the mountain. He never showed the guy. I don't know why, because the best thing about visiting, this is a place called Tisé. The best place about visiting this mountainside is that the man who's created thousands of sculptures into the rock along the side of a valley on a coffee hacienda is this guy called Alberto Gutierrez Girón. Now, he's been doing this for over 30 years because when he was 9, he had a dream that he says lasted for 3 hours and was so vivid it was like a Hollywood movie. That's what he said to me. And so now, every day, he wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning, he goes up onto that mountain, and for the 3 hours, he carves with a nail and a stone these amazing images into the rock. And he's the reason to go there, because he's got orchids, he cultivates orchids, hundreds of different kinds of orchids. He's got 27 different kinds of fruit tree, and he'll take the fruit and show you the fruit, and he'll take you on a little tour around his place. And this is where he lives. It's this tiny little shack, and all he's got in it really is just a bed where he sleeps, and he's decorated with all these drawings. And they call it primitive art. But actually, you know, it's really amazing, the experience of being there. And he'll draw, you know, you give him your book and he'll do a little drawing for you, and he'll explain something about his life and about this mountain. So you get a great trek because you're out in the woods. You can visit this waterfall on the way or on the way back. And so you've got that connection with nature. You've got wildlife. You might hear or see howler monkeys on the way. You meet the man on the mountain. He's carved his rocks. You've had your swim, and then you're back, you know, to buy your cigars and rum. Okay, well that's it from me. I'll take questions, but that's a little bit of Nicaragua for you, and hopefully it will inspire you to go and see Nicaragua. Any questions? Yeah. No, you don't need a visa to go to Nicaragua. You just pay $10 when you arrive, and you get a 30-day visa, and you can extend it when you're there. Anything else? Yeah. Sorry, yeah. 2 weeks. Yeah. Would you recommend taking 3 cities? Yeah. For example, if you're looking at itineraries. I think you've got the Geo Odyssey brochures. Take one away because they've got some very interesting itinerary ideas, and you can also go and talk to them on stand AC36. But I would say that if you've got 2 weeks, you've got a lot of time because transport is very good between those main cities. So for you to include Granada, you can't miss Granada. So I would say you start in Granada, and on the way you can go to the Masaya volcano. Okay, so you can see this lava lake, That can all be included within a couple of days. You've got Leon, the coast, and the Coffee Mountains. All of that can be included in 2 weeks easily. Any? Yes? Yeah. At the moment, there are no direct flights from London to Managua. But what you can do, there are several options. You can fly to Costa Rica and then go either overland into Nicaragua, which brings you into the south, on the coast, Pacific coast, or you can fly on from Costa Rica to Managua. Other options are via Panama, or you can fly via the United States, and there's flights in the United States from Houston and a few other destinations as well, 5 or 6. So you can go via the US, but it's going to be London, US, Managua, or you can fly London, Costa Rica, Managua, London, Panama, Managua, and those are different options. Yeah. Yes?
A couple of questions really. One was about, you mentioned it was the safest place in Central.
Yeah. Yeah, when I say it's the safest place in Latin America, it's definitely the safest place in Central America. Guatemala, Honduras and El Salvador, and this is the irony of it all, which are next door, have a reputation for being the most dangerous places in the Americas. Nicaragua has a reputation for being the safest place in the Nicaraguas, and the simple reason of that is that Nicaragua has not allowed these gangs, these Maras, Pandilla gangs, to infiltrate the country. So they never had that culture, and it was really the Salvadorans and the Hondurans who were going to the United States and then coming back and importing gang culture from Los Angeles that created the problems in Central America. Nicaragua, I think probably because of its revolutionary past and the fact that they fought a Contra war, is that they were already armed against infiltrations, and they've just kept it up and they've kept the place very safe. And I think also because it's still a very rural community, and people don't stand for that kind of behaviour. So these gangs are all tattooed, and you can see where they are, and you see them in El Salvador and you see them in Guatemala, and they are quite scary. You don't see them in Nicaragua. So immediately when you arrive, you get that sense that it's not dangerous, and you walk about, people are very friendly, and statistically, you know, they just don't have the murder rate, so that's why it's the safest. I think the only place which comes close is Uruguay, which is a completely different kind of place, and it's the other end of the Americas. And what was the other question, sorry? Yeah, I've never had problems with mosquitoes in Nicaragua. We've heard about Zika and chikungunya and malaria. Well, I've never taken a prophylactic against malaria. But if I was to go for a while into somewhere like Bossawas, which is a big rainforest environment, I would think about it. I would get some local advice before I decided whether to take a prophylactic or not. But in terms of mosquitoes, a simple repellent is enough. That's it. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for coming. And I hope you enjoy Nicaragua.